Welcome to On Topic, a series of conversations with experts on issues of importance to Alaska. I'm Jim Johnson, president of the University of Alaska, and I'll be talking with distinguished scholars and practitioners of the arts and of sciences about their work. In this segment, we explore the topic of Alaska literature and homestead life with my guest, Linda Shandelmeier, lifelong Alaskan, teacher, gardener, and poet. Often young people, college students, other young people have questions that I think result in maybe questions about their confidence as they deal with the world. You grew up on a homestead, took the train up to the university, first, a flood, and then your education in biology. How did you deal with questions of your own, maybe self-confidence, as you took on this new activity of writing poetry?
It seems like it just kind of evolved. I mean, I was very shy for many, many, many years, many years. I mean, I was very involved in the writing community in the 80s, and I remember the first time I gave a reading. One of my friends, fellow poet Joe Ensweiler, he said, you really should do a reading, and I kind of drug my feet. I didn't really want to do it, but he talked me into it. And he said, "Well, I'll help you practice." So he helped me practice, and so I did one, and still, I can't say I was very much more confident after that first one. It took a long time for me to become comfortable doing things like that. But you end up feeling like you have something to say, and people read your work and they say, would you read? And it's the next step in your sort of career as a poet. So you just do it.
Do you ever close your eyes and visualize a poem or the themes of a poem or anything like that?
No, I don't, except that I say no, but then after I finished this book, the last poem I wrote was about a week ago. I wrote this poem about global warming. And I say I don't visualize, I'm saying no to you, but then that poem's been probably living in my head for a long time. And one thing that I noticed about that, because I have to admit to being pretty fearful about what's happening to our planet and what's going to happen to us and how long do we have and all of that. But after writing that poem, I realized I stopped being so fearful and decided that I just need to take action. It's really not like me not to take action. Usually I do, but that's such a huge, huge unknown. I couldn't figure out what to do.
A teacher taught me a long time ago that you know what you think once you've read it. And what he was telling me is you learn as you write, and it comes out onto the page and you read it and say, yes, that's what I think. Because there's actually a dynamic learning and discovery process, even in writing prose, which is where my world typically is.
Oh, yeah.
And that's surely the case in writing poetry as well.
Yeah, well, I think prose it's very similar, actually, depending on, what sort of prose, of course. But the fiction writer Anthony Doerr said that the reason people should read fiction is because it builds empathy, and I hadn't really thought of it that way, but I think that's one of the things that creative writing of all types does, and that's why it's so important kind of at this time in the United States where we have so much division, because if you try to convince somebody something with using facts, how far do you get?
The bow wave of facts.
Yeah, I try that with the governor or somebody, right? You probably don't get very far.
Tried
not
it.
just the
I've tried
governor. I mean,
it.
anybody. I mean, you try
Yeah.
to convince your spouse of something using facts, it doesn't work, but emotion works pretty well.
Yeah, I learned something from Anthony Doerr as well. I think we met him at the same conference.
Yeah, at the Catchment Bay.
And he called particularly the men out for their book clubs, which are almost always about military history or presidential biography.
Really?
Yeah. And so I committed to myself then that I was always have some fiction going along with my military history
stuff.
and my political biography.
And
But
your
I really appreciate that from Anthony. That was a really
Yeah.
Insightful point he made.
It was.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, Linda, thank you. This has been really an enjoyable conversation. I hope our viewers enjoy it too. I'm sure they will. And I encourage them to read Coming Out of Nowhere and your poetry as well. And I want to thank, again, you for your time and your creativity and sharing your experiences with us today.
Thank you.
Yeah,
It's been
it's a
pleasure.
pleasure.